All right, appreciate everyone for joining us for Coach Franklin's weekly press conference. We'll start with an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open up to questions.
Guys, how we doing? Hope everybody's good. Appreciate, like always, you guys coming out and covering Penn State football. We appreciate it. Obviously, just finished up bye week. I think a lot of you guys kind of covered our bye week schedule. We were all over the place. I know I specifically was all over the place. Me and Terry went out on Monday, got a ton of work done. Then back in here for very productive Tuesday and Wednesday practices. Left out Wednesday night. And then obviously, as you guys know, football's changed. And with the staff size, we used to call it coordinators and captains practice. But with the way staffs have changed, we pretty much had a coach at every position for Thursday's practice. Did a little bit more full speed work than we normally do on that Thursday practice, which was good. Myself and Terry were out again all day Thursday, very productive. With Dion all day Friday, very productive. With Danny O'Brien all day Saturday, and that was good as well. And then got back Saturday last night, and then, got back Saturday night, and then Sunday, we kind of have an expanded practice because obviously we don't have the film to watch, so we take that meeting time and transition it to about 10 more minutes on the field and do some full speed work. I don't want the quarterbacks to be in a situation where they haven't thrown full speed since Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we do that, and it was good. It was good. Obviously getting into Oregon and Coach Lanning, got a tremendous amount of respect for what he's been able to do and for the Oregon football program and university as a whole. It's been impressive to actually, watch what they've been able to do in a short period of time. Number of different coaches and with tremendous support. So it's been impressive. Obviously, Dan's got a defensive background with his time as the defensive coordinator at Georgia, small school guy that's worked his way up, which I got a ton of respect for. We were able to get some film, obviously Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, and Oregon State. I know kind of being on the road, me and Danny O'Brien were just talking about, we were hoping that Oregon State game was as competitive for as long as possible so that we would have as much film to watch. So that turned out to be a positive as well. When you talk about these guys specifically on the offensive side of the ball, Coach Will Stein has done a really good job. It's interesting. I didn't realize he was from Louisville. For some reason, I thought he had a Texas background. Was a Texas high school coach, very successful. Was at the University of Texas. Obviously got hired from University of Texas San Antonio and done a really good job. They're multiple is the best way I would describe. Multiple personnel groups, multiple tempos, multiple schemes. They're able to run the ball with power. They're able to spread you out as well. Obviously they got a bunch of talented players. I think the tight end really makes them go. Obviously with what we were able to do with Tyler Warren last year, they're getting that out of their tight end position. He's a matchup problem in the pass game. He's physical in the run game, extremely explosive. Mainly 11 personnel team, but they'll go 12 personnel too. Dante Moore, a young man that we recruited the heck out of Detroit, Michigan, was a 5-star recruit. I think was the number one quarterback in the country. Went to UCLA, transferred there, sat behind last year, and now is playing really good football. No surprise there. Their running back, number 27, very productive, very physical. Been impressed with him. And then obviously number one, their wide receiver, Decorian Moore, who obviously we're very aware of, true freshman, playing at a high level, quick, explosive, very, very good ball skills. And then on defense, obviously we talked about, Coach Lanning, they're running a system that he's familiar with. from his Alabama days, but Tosh, obviously, Lupoy, as well. Tosh has got also similar background that Dan has. Has got some NFL experience, been a defense coordinator at Alabama, been an assistant at Alabama. And obviously those two guys are hand in hand. Multiple base front, 4 down, 3 down, a little bit of 5 down. Primary coverage, they'll mix up between middle of the field open, middle of the field close, quarters, cover 1 and some 2 robber. They're playing a little bit of the 3 safety stuff. That obviously, Coach Knowles has done a really good job with over his time. We've been impressed with their outside linebacker, number 10, defensive lineman, number 52, outside linebacker, number 44, the transfer safety, DB, number 31 from Purdue, and then inside linebacker, number 28, who's got a great story, local kid, Burlsworth Trophy winner, and kind of seems to be the heartbeat of their defense. So that's going to be a tremendous challenge. And then on special teams, a guy that knows us very well, my guy Joe Lorig. Joe was with us here for 3 years, so he knows our coaching staff, he knows our personnel, he knows our team very well. Was also, I'll give him a shout out, my old roommate at Idaho State in Pocatello, Idaho. We had a heck of an apartment there, but Joe does a really good job. He's an experienced coordinator. Also works on the defensive side of the ball with the Nichols, which is a similar role that he had here with us. Is from Oregon. This was an opportunity for him to get back home, so I'm happy for him and his family. He's doing a nice job. They got 2 punt returners, number 2 and number 1. Decorian we already talked about, but also Gary Bryant. Those 2 guys have been explosive. Their punter is a Boise State transfer. He's another Australian who doing a really nice job. He had a fake punt. I don't know if it was necessarily a fake or not. A lot of these Australian punters, they will roll and they'll watch the rush so that the coverage team can get down as far as possible, and they'll hold on to the ball as long as possible. And I don't know if it was a called fake or just he has the ability to take off and it's there. But basically no one was in his way from running, so he took off and made a big play for him. But he's an experienced vet. And then also their place kicker, is a transfer from Oregon State, number 36, and has done a nice job. He's 5 for 6 on field goals and 18 for 18 on PATs, and really doing a nice job. So tremendous challenge, tremendous opportunity. Obviously we need this place rocking. Need to have a distinct home field advantage. We always do, but I'm expecting this to be an environment like no one has ever seen. Urban Meyer always has kind of discussions and debates on what's the hardest place to play in college football. I think he usually says, between Penn State whiteout at night and LSU night game. So we want to make it clearly obvious to everybody what is the most challenging and difficult environment to play in all of sports, let alone college football. I know a good portion of our fans like to sit down except for third downs and red zone and what they consider critical times of the game. But I'm challenging everybody. This is a 4-quarter, 1 play at a time. First, second down, third down, fourth down, punts, kickoff coverage, that we need to be on our feet screaming a collective battle cry in the stadium. So we're going to need everybody's help. So open up the questions.
Start with Rich Garcella, followed by Neil Riddell.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Rich. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Great.
In the kitchen today. Why are you in the kitchen today?
I needed a change of pace.
Nice. Nice.
How much different is the Oregon offense with Moore at quarterback instead of Gabriel, and what kind of problems does Moore present to you guys?
Yeah, I don't think it's a whole lot different. He's a throw-first guy, is very accurate, can extend plays, Obviously has a ton of playmakers around him. They both had the ability to extend plays. I would say that Dante runs a little bit more. Runs a little bit more than maybe they had in the past. But the other guy was a really good athlete as well. So I think it's still very similar. And I think, that guy's sitting, Dante's sitting behind that guy for a year, Gabriel, was really valuable for his development. I think it also shows a tremendous maturity of that kid, right? He's 5-star recruit. Could have went anywhere, could have went a bunch of places where he would have, pretty much been the starting quarterback the day he stepped on campus and chose UCLA. Didn't redshirt his freshman year, so that became his redshirt year. And, it's been a real positive for him and them. So I think very similar. They still function in a similar way than what we saw on film last year.
Let's go to Neil Riddell, followed by Bob Flounders.
Hi, James.
Hey, Neil.
I was wondering, off topic, I didn't know I was going to be batting second here, but as a mentor and a colleague, have you been in touch with Brent Pry, and how does the industry rally around each other when situations like this happen?
Yeah, as you know, I'd prefer to talk about our opponent, but I think you guys also know what Brent Pry and that family have meant to me and what I think about them and the respect I have. Brent's dad was my offensive coordinator in college, so we go back forever. We played against each other in college. One of Brent's first years coaching was at East Stroudsburg. And then was with me the whole time at Vanderbilt, him and his family, watched his kids grow up, and then was with us, pretty much the whole time here at Penn State before becoming head coach at Virginia Tech. So challenging situation. You hate to see it for anybody. I hate to see it for Brent. I hate to see it for Virginia Tech. But Brent is resilient, and he's a darn good football coach, and he'll bounce back as I know he will. So got a lot of respect and a lot of love for Brent and his family, and we have texted a bunch, haven't talked. I know my wife and Amy have talked, but mainly texts between me and Brent. But yeah, I think the coaching community and more than just the coaching community, kind of friends, look out for each other, no different than your friends and any other industry. So, but I hate that for Brent. I hate that for Virginia Tech. So that's about my answer. Was that everything he asked? Yeah.
It's good.
He's got his finger up. I guess Neil's saying he gets 2 questions. Oh, no, you're saying okay. Okay, yeah. Which finger was that, Neil, you had up? Yeah.
Let's go to Bob Flounders, followed by Mark Wogenrich.
Hi, James. How are you doing today?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. Neil's always going to keep you on your toes. You just got to be careful with that guy.
That's exactly right.
James, we were talking to Jim Knowles last week on the bye week, and he had a chance to see this Oregon team and this Oregon offense twice last year. And he was talking about the challenge of just trying to deal with their talent, their tempo, all the challenges they present. And he said in his mind, one of the toughest things for him was critical simply to get the guys lined up in the right spots. Because he said against this team, if you're not aligned correctly, you almost have no shot. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak to that challenge, even though maybe it sounds simple, I'm sure it isn't. And I was wondering maybe how you thought your defense did last year against that kind of challenge.
Yeah, so, again, when you have multiple wide receivers that can hurt you in a game, can go the distance, it changes how defensive coordinators, approach the game. And then same thing at tight end, and same thing at running back, and same thing at quarterback. When you have multiple weapons, it becomes very difficult. And then obviously what our offensive coordinator is trying to do, they're trying to motion and shift to create confusion, and to mess with your rules and try to get guys in favorable matchups. I do think that's one of the advantages of going against our offense for him every single day in training camp, because I think we do as much of that as anybody. So I do think there's some value in that. Again, our offense and defense going against each other. And I think last year, in terms of your question about the matchup, I think we didn't have enough tools in our tool belt. And what I mean by that is we were strictly is probably not the best word, but majority a man coverage team. And sometimes they were able to get matchups that were in their favor. And if we're not able to solve that issue with a sack or pressure, then we had some challenges. So I think, being able to play man is definitely one of our weapons, but also being able to have zones and zone pressures and a lot of those different things that we're now doing more of, I think is valuable. And as you know, we've done it a bunch of different ways with Bob Shoop and Brent Pry. We were predominantly a quarter half cover 6 team. Then when obviously we went with Manny Diaz, we became more of a man team, and that continued a little bit with Tom. So being able to have more of a mix that we can challenge people with man coverage. And when you do play zone, I think Jim does a really good job of emphasizing, we've always talked about situational football, but I think there's been times where we've been in zone coverage, but it's 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 5, and we're not challenging routes as much. We're too soft in our zones and things like that. So it's been good. It's been good. He's an experienced defensive coordinator. There's a lot going on up there. And I think, each week goes on where he's got a better idea of who we are. I think that's a big part in all this as well that Andy Kotelnicki went through last year. Like, what are the strengths of our people? What are the challenges or some weaknesses in our guys at this point of the season? And how do you call a game to play to those strengths and maybe limit some of those deficiencies or maybe matchup issues? Yes, sir.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich, followed by Frank Bodani.
Excuse me. Hey, James, how are you?
Good, Mark. How are you?
Good, thanks. You discussed the bye week, the schedule a little bit, but offensively, what did you accomplish during that bye week in assessing where you've been successful and where you needed to get better?
Yeah, so first thing we do every year, which I think is good, is I have the offense self-scout the defense, and I have the defense self-scout the offense. And obviously we have the reports that we run on either side of the ball and some of the analytics stuff that we pay for. But, if you can get one or two things from the crossover work that maybe you weren't thinking about, there's value in that. And then obviously spending some time, we need to get better on both sides of the ball on 3rd down, 3rd down / 4th down. So spent extra time on that during the bye week schedule. Spent a ton of time, obviously, on some tempo stuff, and then spent a ton of time on crowd noise, specifically on the defensive side of the ball from a communication standpoint, back to previous questions. So those things are valuable. Those things are valuable, or knowing what your strengths are, knowing what some of your weaknesses are, areas that you need to improve. I've said this to you guys before. Tendencies are a good thing. If you have tendencies, that means you're good at things. And what you want to try to do is have enough of those tendency breakers to give people pause. I think those things are really important. And then obviously the other thing that's going to be, I think, critical in this game is starting fast. This is a team that has started fast pretty much, for the last couple of years. And that's going to be important in this game. You look at some of the games like last year where that didn't happen for them. It changes things significantly. So starting fast is going to be really important for both our offense and defense.
Let's go to Frank Bodani, followed by Mike Gross.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you, James?
Good, Frank. How are you?
Real good, thanks. For your defense, through the first 3 games in the bye week, what's the most important thing you learned about your defense that you didn't know beginning of the season? And maybe is there something big yet you want to see from them?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one is probably some of our personnel, like Chaz Coleman. Like, we obviously have some young kids that you think are going to be able to help you, and Chaz is really kind of made a move there. Darius Dixon as well. They're 2 young kids that we weren't sure, and as they continue to kind of trend, and there's some other guys as well. When you talk about defense, I think it's also just the level of communication that we have to have with our safeties and linebackers, and Jim getting used to them and them getting used to Jim, and even the communication from the sideline or from the booth in how we communicate and call the defense. We've gotten better at that each week. We put more on the players on the field, which I think is good, especially with the tempos and the change of tempos that you're going to face. Obviously, Deny has made his presence felt very early, and I think has earned Jim and a lot of people's respect in how he's playing. I also am excited about Zachy, because I think we all know the type of player Zachy is and his ball skills and things like that. And this new defensive scheme and tweaks that we have has taken him some time, but I think he is much more comfortable now in week 5 or 4, however you want to look at it. And I think you're going to see him make big plays for us moving forward. So I just think we're in a much different place in terms of the confidence and the execution that it takes to play in these type of games. And each week that we're able to spend time kind of working through it in practice and in meetings, I think the faster that we get. I'll never forget, when Manny came here, Manny being surprised with the amount of speed that we had on our defense. And I think the more comfortable our guys get in playing some of the tweaks to the new defense, that speed will start to show up again on a more consistent basis.
Last question on Zoom, Mike Gross.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm coming. Sorry. Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You have 2 guys on your defensive line, Deny and Zane, that other teams have to. It seems to me other teams have to find them and figure out how to deal with them. So how can you leverage that? Maybe to find an advantage elsewhere. How can you use what other teams have to do? Something if they take that away, something else has to be open, right?
That's right. Yeah, so I think the first thing is playing those guys more, right? We've been a heavy rotational team the first 3 games, and that was part of the philosophy. But you'll see a change this week in our ones will play more reps. I'm not saying they're going to play every rep in the game, but they're going to play more reps. So, making sure that we have Zane and Deny on the field as much as possible. But I also think part of it is we want those 2 guys to obviously overlap, but then you also would love to have a situation where they're not both off of the field at the same time as well, right? Like when you have 2 veterans, you'd like those veterans to be in with the younger players as well. So I think some of those things we're going to have to look at in how we can create a rotation that allows them to play together, but also limit some of the time where they're both off the field at the same time. That may mean we're going 6 plays with one and 8 plays with the other, or whatever it is, in terms of being able to get them a blow. But I think that's going to be important as anything. Specifically on the defensive side of the ball, we've been working hard to create depth this isn't one of those types of games. You know, we need our best players playing as many reps as we possibly can. We're also making sure that we still have a chance to keep them fresh with the rotation of the depth that we've created. So that's part of it. And then I think there's also just some things scheme-wise that we'll do, whether we're putting those guys on the same side in pass rush situations or splitting them up based on what we think they're going to do protection-wise to create some matchups that we think are favorable.
We'll go to questions in the room. Mark?
Hey, James, thanks for your time.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How is the team doing health-wise at this point of the season, and did the bye fall at a good time for the bumps and bruises that you kind of deal with through the course of the season?
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good place. We were able to get through the bye week with really no issues. The last couple games, we really had no issues. Obviously, getting a veteran player like Zariah back has been significant for us, so we're happy with that. But for the most part, we have some normal bumps and bruises, like you say. But we're in pretty good shape. We're in a pretty good place from this standpoint. And obviously we're gonna need to have a physical week. Tuesday and Wednesday is going to be really important in terms of our work days and practice. But we need to make sure that we have everybody available come game time. So there's a balance with all of that, right?
Over here on the right, John?
Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, John. Is it cold in here?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's what I feel, cold.
I'm rarely cold, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. You talked about tightening the rotation, specifically at wide receiver. How many guys do you feel comfortable playing on Saturday? And has anyone kind of cracked into that top three that's been building with the transfers and Liam as a fourth?
Yeah, we feel the same. We although you guys have not seen a whole lot of Tysier Denmark and Kobe Howard, it's not because we don't have confidence in those guys. It's we wanted to make sure we built the chemistry with our starters. But again, now we're in a situation again, just like I talked about with the defense, that we need to make sure that our guys are on the field for as many reps as possible with tap opportunities to guys that back them up, that we have confidence in. So nothing has really changed, but maybe your question based on perception, it's not that we don't feel like those guys can come in and contribute. It's more we've been using a rotation at wide receiver, very similar to what we're talking about doing with the other positions in this game.
Over here on the right, Tyler?
Hey, James, thanks for the time.
Hey, Tyler, you too.
Wanted to throw, I guess, the red shirt conversation back your way, since we're coming out of a bye week, and it was a month ago when you talked about those two initial green lights with Darius and Chaz. Has anyone else earned their way onto that list? And even if he hasn't, Yvonne Kamaju, 3 for 3 getting into games. How has his play, Chaz's play, and the fact that you got Zariah in maybe changed the way you feel about your defensive end depth compared to a month ago?
Yeah, we had felt, I think, maybe you guys had a little bit more concern about the defensive end depth than we did. We felt like they were young, but we felt like we were talented at that position. Yvonne is a guy, right now that we have a lot of confidence in. He's a smart guy. He's a physical guy. He's a trustworthy guy. So we feel like we can play. We also didn't have Malachi Williams, so that factored into it. Malachi had some bumps and bruises that he was dealing with, so that impacted Yvonne's playing time. So hopefully we have Malachi back this week, which we're anticipating. Not a whole lot has changed. Chaz and Darius Dixon, they're going. Yvonne, Alex Tash, and Jameer Joseph are kind of that next group of guys that will play if we need to. And then Kobe Howard on offense. So, we really like those young defensive ends, but also hopefully getting Malachi back helps with that too. Malachi's strength is probably a little bit more in the passing game. Yvonne's strength is probably a little bit more in the run game. We'd like to merge those two together.
Over here on the right, Audrey?
Hey, James.
Hey, Audrey.
Going back to your run game and the self-scouting that you guys have done, do you feel like Nick's at a good spot now, kind of coming out of the bye week, and do you feel like you're getting what you want to get out of both of those guys and kind of the way you continue to rotate them?
Yeah, just like I mentioned to you guys about K-Tron's off season, I think you're seeing it, right? You're seeing what we talked about. Obviously, his ability to go the distance, be explosive, his yards per carry, are as impressive as anybody in the country, and obviously, he's earned that. He's earned that right to be a guy that we want to get the ball into his hands as much as we possibly can. We also recognize what Nick Singleton's done over his career, and I think we talked, maybe a week ago, just about, Nick has worked really hard this offseason on some things in terms of open field running and some different tools and weapons. But on Saturdays, I want him to go let it rip and play fast and powerful and explosive, which is his style. He's a downhill, full speed back, and on Saturdays, I want him to do that. So I think you're going to see that from him as well. He's been too successful for too long here at Penn State. Has had a great career, and that will continue. So I think it's a combination of him trying to be a perfect back, and you're never going to be a perfect back. I've talked about that with a number of our players, that on Saturdays, just go play. And, again, I got a lot of confidence and I got a lot of trust in Nick Singleton and what he's going to be able to do for us, not only this Saturday, but all season long. But again, back to K-Tron, I think everybody is seeing, what we talked about in the summer about K-Tron's off season and him looking different in terms of his speed and explosiveness.
Middle right, Max.
Hey, James.
Hey, Max.
I think sometimes there's a conception among fans that when you play non-conference opponents that you end up outscoring by 100 points. You maybe don't have to show all the tricks in your bag, for example. How much of that is true? How much of that can be a misconception? Can you really just open it up when you go into a game like this against Oregon?
Is that just the fans, or is that the fans and the media?
I mean, it certainly can come into the media sometimes, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like one of them long-term kind of questions, right? Are you saving things? Yeah, I think you're always, I don't know if saving is the idea, but you've done some off-season studies where there's certain things that you worked on during training camp that you're planning on using using against certain opponents. And there's some things, could you have used early in the season, but you didn't feel like you needed to? Yeah. I think that's always the case, but it's not like, I think, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, head coaches, you're going into a game saying we're going to be conservative in this game. It's not that, or vanilla. It's okay, this is what we need to do in this game to win, to score points, to stop people scoring. And it's all about the matchup and the opponent that you have there. But I guess it just depends on your lens. Do you call everything in every game? No, you don't. Obviously, it's impossible to do. So there are packages and things that you're going to see in the Oregon game that you didn't see in the Villanova game. There's some things you probably saw in the Villanova game that you didn't see in the FIU game in Nevada, and so on and so forth. So, so I guess the answer is a little bit of both, right? But it's not because we're taking the approach to be vanilla or conservative. It's just based on what you think you have to do in that game to be successful.
Way in the back, Caleb.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. I wanted to ask, you've been in your fair share of whiteout games now. Curious how you kind of handle the emotions heading out onto the field, and obviously given that I think this is the highest rank that both teams have come into a whiteout game, and the importance of this game, how do you kind of stress to your players to still enjoy the moment, maybe pregame, but also lock in when game time comes?
Yeah, I think that happens naturally. I don't think I need to tell them, right? They've been hearing it all off season. They've been hearing it when they walk around campus. When they're getting the request for tickets, like I get these text messages. Hey, how we doing? Like I haven't talked to you in I don't know how long, and like you're talking about all these other topics, and I'm just like, all right, come on, get to the point. The answer is no. You know, you've waited to the last minute to request tickets. Like, what are we talking about? So I don't think it's anything that I need to address with them. You know, it is a special deal, and we're fortunate and honored to coach in it and to play in it. But I don't think it's something that needs to be addressed. They've almost all of them were there as recruits. The ones that weren't there as recruits have now played in it. So, you know, I'll take my 8 seconds when we walk out of the tunnel and kind of take it all in and feel the energy. And then once you kind of run out in the field, you know, you're kind of locked in and focused on the opponent and the challenge. But I don't think it's something that needs to really be addressed.
We got time for one more over here on the right, Daniel.
How are you doing today, James?
Good, Daniel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Jim talked about the other safety spot next to Zachy, that it's still an open competition at this point. How have you seen those other three guys handle that competition and develop? We know that Jim talks about how complicated that spot can be. How do you see those guys approaching this, and definitely in an in-season competition?
Yeah, I think King is an older guy. It's been impressive to watch how he's approached it, and probably as much from the standpoint he didn't win the starting job during camp and never let it faze him. I think some of the younger players, when they either lost a job or didn't win the job, I think they've let it faze them in terms of the consistency and the approach. It is hard, right? Whether it's football or anything else in life, when you pour your heart and soul into something and then you don't get the return on your investment that you think you're going to get, to show up the next day or the next rep and still be the same guy. Like that's a very important skill and trait to develop. And I think as young players, they're still figuring that out. The good thing is both of them, in Belgrave and Day are super talented, are super talented, and I think they have very, very, very bright futures. But it's like I talk about for a lot of these guys. It's about consistency. Who can be the most consistent guy in practice every single day? Who can be the most consistent guy in the games that your teammates and the coaches can trust? That you're going to do your job at a high level on a consistent basis, and that's really kind of what we're looking for at every position. That's the challenge, and that's where, you know, whether it's our D squad periods against our scout team guys, which do a phenomenal job for us, or whether that's the good on good work that we do every single week. You're saying you're trying to see who can do that, you know, on a consistent basis. Whether that's jog throughs, whether that is meetings, whether that's your tests that you have, kind of off topic, but a little bit to your question, you know, is Sexton, redshirt freshman offensive lineman. I used his example in the team meeting the other day. You know, Coach Troutwine's test is as detailed and as long of a test as I've ever been around. And I think they usually get it like on Thursday. And Sexton's test was as good as I've ever seen. And I know Trout felt the same way. Just the level of detail in his test was phenomenal, to the point where I put it up in the team meeting as an example for everybody to learn from, right? And these are kind of the preparation habits and behaviors that we're trying to create. And that's kind of what we're looking for at every single position is we have a process obviously as a team in how we prepare that we want to be consistent as well. But it's these players too. It's them refining their process every single week. It's harder for a Nick Dawkins than it is for a Chaz Coleman, right? Like, how do I refine my process and get better? Part of it is things as silly as during the whiteout, who handles your ticket requests so you don't have people hitting you up at the last minute, getting your tickets in on time, your family, not bothering you before the game or Friday night at the hotel, getting all your schoolwork done so you can go to the hotel and just focus on the game and your responsibilities or your assignments. Taking care of your body and doing supple lying and stretching and massages and rolling out and prehab, not just rehab, prehab, doing all these different things, hydrating, taking care of your body, getting enough sleep per night. All these little things, they add up. And typically the older, more mature players, they're further along in that. So they don't have things that impact their preparation, whether that is mentally, whether that is physically, or whether that is emotionally. And that's also why I'm so much a routine guy, because I think the players find comfort in that routine and they can lean into it, that they know what to expect on a Tuesday. And our Tuesday against Oregon is the same as our Tuesday against Nevada.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Coach.
you.